Thank you so very much, and thank you for that warm introductions. My name is Bonanza Perwira Taihitu. I'm the Director for Global Health and Health Technology Policy Center at the Ministry of Health. Um, Happy to have in this panel my bright youngest generations of Indonesia, Revata Utama from Nusantics, and also Ibu Susanti, Dr. Susanti from PathGen. And we are going to bring you into Indonesian journey in eliminating cancer in the country. But before I start, I would like to invite each of the panelists to introduce themselves and emphasize their role in fight against cancer in Indonesia. I invite Revata first.
Hi everyone, I'm Revata. Thank you, Pak Bonanza, for the introduction as well. I'm Revata, founder and CEO of Nusantics. I studied biomedical science at NUS and I've worked with two major biotechnology companies back in Singapore, building a lab on a chip PCR and digital PCR system as well before I started Nusantics. And then back in 2020, we look at Indonesia's healthcare system and we believe that Nusantics can contribute in improving healthcare systems through diagnostics, reagents such as PCR and next generation sequencing kits, because majority of the medical devices here in Indonesia is still imported. We started off with COVID-19 test kit back then together with Ministry of Health as well, trying to curb the spread of the pandemic. And now we've looked into eradicating cervical cancer by cutting off at the infection level.
Thank you, Revata. And Dr. Susanti, please emphasize your very key role in Indonesia, elimination of cancer.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Santi. I'm a cancer researcher by training. So I was trained in Australia and also in the UK. Currently, I'm a founder and CEO of PathGen. PathGen vision is to support the democratization of molecular diagnostic in limited resource setting, such as in developing country, by providing affordable but robust molecular diagnostic tests for cancer and other non-communicable disease. And we also engaged with our global partner to improve the capacity of molecular diagnostic as well as cancer research in Indonesia and beyond. In addition to my role in PathGen, I'm also still full-time active researcher in Cancer Research UK Scotland Institute. So I divide my time between up north in Glasgow and here in Indonesia. Yeah, I think that's me.
Yeah, Dr. Susanti, you recently did a study in which you found that more and more young people had cancer. Can you share with us more into that findings?
As I mentioned, I'm still active researcher. So one of the key area that the key area of research that I'm actively involved in is about the early onset colorectal cancer. So I have particular emphasis on colorectal cancer or bowel cancer because I was one of the patient. So under 30 years old, a few years ago, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer. So cancer has been very personal and also my professional aspect. So I'm researching early onset colorectal cancer at the moment. It's a worldwide phenomena, interestingly. But Indonesia has a special place because 30 to 40% of Indonesian colorectal cancer patient is actually under 50 years old. 50 years old is the cutoff that people use globally to define early onset or cancer in young patients. So it's quite striking, isn't it, Bonanza? So most of my research now try to figure out why this happened, because as a cancer researcher, we understand that colon cancer usually take up to 50 years to develop the carcinogenesis of the disease, because you need accumulation of many mutation in oncogene and tumor suppressor gene. So what we found in Indonesia is quite striking, but also is a global trend. So whether it's a environmental thing or beyond that environmental thing, something in our population cause high number of young patients. We published a paper using the kit that PathGen developed, and we found that there is a high chances that Indonesia population have probability of Lynch syndrome. So Lynch syndrome is inherited type of colorectal cancer, and usually in this type of patient, colorectal cancer will develop earlier. But it's not describing all of young patients, so question remain. But yeah, we love to contribute through PathGen, also as my head as the researcher diaspora, to understand how the cancer can develop in such young age in Indonesia, not only in colon, but breast and such. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, if you look at into the high burden diseases in Indonesia, for new cases in Indonesia, the highest is breast cancer, and then lung cancer, and then cervical cancer. And talking about cervical cancer in Indonesia is the second most killer for women, and it is a bittersweet for me because, on the other hand, Indonesian Minister of Health introduced a very ambitious action plan to eliminate cervical cancer 2030 to attain the SDGs along with that sectors. Yeah. So if we look at vaccinations of 90% of young age 11 to 12, and then 70% of screening. And talking about screening, and I'm happy that a male figures here in fighting cervical cancer. Revata, can you share with us more about your work in producing screenings, tests, diagnostic in this regard, and how is your commitment in supporting all countries, not only Indonesia, to fight cervical cancer?
Yeah, so like Bonanza said, cervical cancer is one of the highest killer for women in Indonesia and actually the region and even the world. Approximately in Indonesia alone, we have 36,633 cases, new cases every year, with a high mortality rate of 56%, which means about 20,000 of women died every year because of cervical cancer. So for Nusantics, when we started to look into other avenues to expand our business into, we look into our roots, where we started off with COVID-19 PCR test kits. We are handling infectious disease. And when we look at cervical cancer, it's actually caused by human papillomavirus. There are multiple numbers of HPV that are circulating around, but only 14 types of them that can cause cancer. And this is the only cancer that can be prevented by screening and vaccination, which is why I think I appreciate so much on what Ministry of Health is doing with the Rencana Aksi Nasional, where they are trying to screen Indonesian women and then vaccinate them if they are negative. And we are using our technology to build the early detection system for cervical cancer. So we can detect 14 high-risk HPV, not only through the traditional method of cervical swab samples, but we can also use urine. Because in Indonesia, one of the problems that we face in the healthcare system is the disparity between cities in terms of the healthcare access, in terms of the lab technology access. And as I mentioned, a lot of medical devices in Indonesia is still imported. So Nusantics here, as the developer, and also we do clinical validation here in Indonesia, we develop and produce the test kits here, not only with the traditional method, but we also use urine as a sample so that it allows women to screen them faster and also not painful, because if you go for the traditional swab samples, you have to go to the doctors, you have to spare some time, and it's also painful. So in hopes that we can increase the number of screenings in Indonesia and also prevent cervical cancer to develop, because by preventing HPV infections, we can actually prevent the development of the cervical cancer, thus reducing them.
Fascinating contributions in eliminating cervical cancers. We still have 5 years to come in attaining the SDGs 2030 to eliminate cervical cancers, but we don't have to wait that long, I think, and we all agree that we don't have to wait that long. We can do accelerations. With that, support from private sectors, private company is key, and I would like to invite also Dr. Santi to share what has been the experience of PathGen in this fighting against cancer.
Yeah, obviously I have multiple hats, but I understand being a researcher, especially in more mature startup country like in the UK or Australia, that public, academia, government, community, and private sector can actually work hand in hand to advance to improve the human health. So I don't want my research to be sitting only on the shelf of the journal publications and stuff like that. So that's why I established PathGen to enable whatever research we did or I do and my team do in the lab can be translated and obviously benefiting patient. Having said that, I was one of them. So I think it will be very beneficial because none of this component can work in silo. Us in CRUK, for example, we are partnering with lots of big pharma, obviously with the right agreement and stuff to translate, to do a lot of preclinical and clinical trial to benefit patients at the end of the day. And I think we love to see more and more that kind of partnership happening in Indonesia. And like what Pak Budi mentioned today is one of the, boosts, I think. He's been quite open to private partnership. But don't forget, we also need to engage with the community, the patients, because they will be the one who not only get benefit, they'll be the one who need to drive this translation of innovation forward as well together with us.
Yeah. Before we continue these conversations, I would like to share with you the successful case studies, also doctor testimony that highlight the importance of early detections. The committee, please show the videos.
Setiap tahun, lebih dari 300.000 wanita meninggal karena kanker serviks di seluruh dunia. Di Indonesia, kanker serviks adalah salah satu kanker paling umum di kalangan perempuan dengan jumlah kasus baru sekitar 36.000 per tahun. Sayangnya, kanker ini memiliki tingkat kematian yang sangat tinggi, yaitu sekitar 56%, karena sering terdiagnosis di stadium lanjut, di mana pengobatan menjadi lebih kompleks dan kurang efektif. Nama saya Dr. Riki, saya dokter patologi klinik, saya VP Medical di PT Diagnos Laboratorium Utama. Sekitar 99% kasus kanker serviks disebabkan oleh infeksi human papillomavirus. Meskipun sebagian besar infeksi HPV ini bisa sembuh dengan sendirinya, tapi ada beberapa infeksi yang kemudian akan berkembang menjadi kanker serviks. Dengan mengetahui adanya infeksi HPV, kita bisa mendeteksi dan mencegah jangan sampai terjadi kanker serviks. Dengan mendeteksi infeksi HPV lebih awal, kita jadi bisa memantau perkembangan, perubahan, lesi prakanker sebelum menjadi kanker sepenuhnya. Dengan demikian, kita bisa memulai pengobatan lebih cepat. Pengobatan lebih cepat akan meningkatkan peluang keberhasilan pengobatan dan juga akan meningkatkan angka kelangsungan hidup pasien. Berbeda dari pemeriksaan pap smear di mana kita menilai perubahan seluler akibat adanya infeksi HPV yang kemudian secara bertahap akan menjadi suatu sel kanker. Deteksi HPV merupakan pemeriksaan pendahulu sebelum kerusakan seluler ini terjadi. sehingga kita punya waktu lebih banyak untuk melakukan pemantauan dan mendeteksi dini apakah benar akan terjadi kanker, dan kita bisa melakukan tindakan sebelum kanker itu terjadi. Saat ini banyak kanker serviks yang terdiagnosis di stadium lanjut, karena memang tidak pernah melakukan pemeriksaan screening. Banyak orang yang khawatir bahwa screening kanker serviks merupakan prosedur yang menyakitkan, sulit, dan mahal. Tapi saat ini ada metode baru di mana kita bisa melakukan pemeriksaan terhadap HPV atau Human Papilloma Virus. Dan pemeriksaan HPV ini bisa kita lakukan tidak dari sampel swab cervix, tapi juga menggunakan sampel urin.
Hai, saya Edward. Saya R&D Manager dari PT Diagnostics Laboratorium Utama. Secara konvensional, pemeriksaan HPV-DNA dilakukan dengan sampel dari cervical swabs, yang artinya pasien harus menyediakan waktu untuk bertemu dengan dokter dan melakukan prosedur pengambilan sampel. Nusantics memberi alternatif yang lebih mudah untuk pasien. Dengan menggunakan sampel dari urin, pasien lebih mudah mengoleskan waktu untuk pengambilan sampel secara soft collections, dan juga akan lebih affordable dan accessible. Di lab diagnos, setiap kit yang akan digunakan akan melalui serangkaian pengujian untuk memastikan kualitas dari kit tersebut. PathGen sudah diuji di lab diagnos dengan dibandingkan dengan kit pemeriksaan HPV-DNA yang sudah digunakan sebelumnya dan berkualitas internasional. Dan hasil dari uji tersebut menunjukkan bahwa PathGen memberikan kualitas sama baiknya dengan kit yang kami gunakan sebelumnya. Dengan kami mengadopsi teknologi dari Susanti, kami berharap bahwa pemeriksaan HPV akan lebih affordable, reliable, sehingga tindakan preventif ini dapat dilakukan oleh seluruh masyarakat di Indonesia.
My experience with molecular diagnostic have been quite positive. As a medical professional, I have seen the importance of accurate and affordable diagnostic for cancer. Molecular diagnostic kits have proven to be both reliable and accessible, which is crucial in Indonesia. Molecular diagnostic kit helps clinicians deliver more precise clinical assessment for cancer patients. Using this kit, clinicians can identify genetic mutation or abnormalities in cancer patients, having more accurate diagnosis based on patient mutation profile. This information helps clinicians choose the most appropriate cancer therapy. By using this kit, clinicians can select the most suitable and beneficial therapy, avoiding ineffective treatment, reducing side effects, and minimizing the risk of polypharmacy. Thank you.
Now, from that testimony, we see a key role of early detections. And cancer, if you detect it early, it is curable, right? And therefore, in the setting of Indonesia, I would like to invite the views from both of you, how Nusantics and also PathGen can support this health resiliency in the country with your own productions. Please.
Sure. So first of all, what we do is that if you look back on our journey, we always look on what the country needs. First and foremost, the priorities of the disease that Ministry of Health is looking at, and also what the people are concerned with. So back then we look at COVID-19, now we look at cervical cancer because we want to support Ministry of Health in eradicating cervical cancer. And one of the ways is to do through screening. So what we do right now, we develop them in-house. As you can see from the videos, those are my scientists. They are a homegrown scientists from Indonesian universities, and they built them here in Indonesia, in Jakarta. Once we do that, we collaborate with universities like University of Indonesia and state-owned hospitals like RSJM as well to do the clinical validation to find out, because we don't want to build a product that doesn't really work. We want to build a product that really works and have alternative features as compared to the traditional technology that is out there. So we validated our products with traditional samples and also urine samples with RSJM and University of Indonesia across 3 different cities in Jakarta, Bandung, and also Semarang. And after that, looking at products are not going to be usable if we are not able to produce them. It's going to be only an IP and technology. So we want these technologies to be able to be used by the markets, especially with the public market as well, like the government, and also the private markets like Diagnos, Cheeto Lab, and other hospitals that have already been using our kits. So what we do is that we produce them ourselves with the brand PathGen, which literally means pathogen scanning, that we detect the HPV viruses. But not only that, we also collaborated with state-owned enterprise like Biopharma. So Biopharma also have their own brand under the name of ServiceScan, which is using our technology. And we're also collaborating with some other companies that are trying to produce them. So Pak Bonanza, if next year there's going to be another HPV kits coming, they are using our technology as well. So that's how we are trying to help the government and also the country to be able to have a good technology access, not only built for, because most of the kits that are imported to Indonesia, first of all, it's already expensive from Europe, from US, and then you have the tax, import tax, and then there's also the margin of distributor. By us producing, developing the technology and producing them here, we will be able to bring the cost down. But of course, one of the problems in Indonesia in terms of the healthcare is actually the lack of education and also the lack of access to the healthcare facilities. So Nusantics is not only producing the kits and selling them to the labs and waiting for people and patients to come into the lab and test, but we also actively involve in the bringing the number of tests up by building a digital platform that connects doctors and labs, sort of like a lab aggregator, if you want to think about it that way, so that doctors can be able to administer the test kits directly in their clinics. One of the problems that patients face right now, if we go to the clinics, is that we go to the doctors and doctors prescribe us to go for testing. They give us a form that we have to go to the lab and test them ourselves. So what we do with our digital platform is that we connect the doctors with the lab so that doctors can collect the samples in their clinics, and we pick up the samples to the labs and allowing patients to be able to test them directly and more faster.
Yeah, Dr. Susanti?
Yeah, I think we kind of have a similar or inline story with Nusantics. Obviously, cancer will be my fight for the rest of my life. One of the questions when I start PathGen was that I got from my UK counterpart is why I established PathGen in Indonesia, not in the UK. But I think it's very clear. We want to support Indonesian patients, and through partnership with many stakeholders, including government, to fight the disease, right? So we do our in-house research and development. I'm a researcher by nature anyway. So as Revata mentioned, we have excellent young scientists here in Indonesia that can compete in terms of R&D with people outside Indonesia with the right capacity building, right? So that's my role there in PathGen as a CEO and director. And with our in-house R&D, we want to make sure that our cancer is very genetic disease, right? So we want to make sure we're testing the right gene, or we're having the right panel for our kit that's suitable for Indonesian patient. So same as what Revata did, we also collaborate with Indonesian clinician. For our colon cancer kit, it was with RSJM Universitas Indonesia Universitas Gadjah Mada and Rumah Sakit Sarjito, Universitas Riau and Muhammadiyah Purwokerto, so to validate the test. And we partner with biopharma to manufacture and distribute this first kit that we launched in colon cancer. But the whole story is about empowering and building up Indonesian resilience to fight disease such as cancer through, at the moment, PathGen focus is through diagnostic, but obviously we love to contribute more, and yeah, stay tuned what PathGen do in coming few years.
No, thank you so very much. On the side of the government, we introduced the National Action Plan on Elimination Cervical Cancer. At the moment, we are finalizing the National Cancer Control Plan. Parallel to that, we are doing the action plan on child cancer. These weeks, the past couple of weeks, we received the impact missions from WHO, IAEA, and all experts from around the globe to enhance our capacity in combating cancer. And starting tomorrow, August is the month whereas we introduce the vaccinations for cervical cancer on the class of 11 and 12. On top of that, maybe Pak Budi highlighted this morning, we had $4 billion grant from World Bank, AIEB, ASDB, and ADB to enhance our health facilities here. So both of you contribute a lot. So 1 minute each of you for closing remarks to invite the business community in front of us to invest in Indonesia. Please, closing remarks on that. Santi.
It's a good business, but it's not all about that. It's more about achieving global equity in delivering healthcare, especially in the complex disease like cancer. So this effort cannot be done by Bonanza and MOH alone, cannot be done by us as a startup alone, but it's more into ecosystem. So we are grateful that PathGen may be one of the latest portfolio of its venture. So I really appreciate what its venture do in terms of the biotech space, because it's not an easy field and it's not cheap in terms of investment. But at the end of the day, it's for benefit of the patient and improving everyone's life. So let's make this our joint mission. And I think everything can be done, especially even in resource-limited countries, in developing countries, through collaboration, and we prove that we can.
Yeah, so I think time is about to be up, so I'm just going to say a few words about the healthcare business in Indonesia. I think healthcare is a very sensitive business because, in essence, we are looking at the health of the people, and when we talk business, about sensitive. But if you look at Indonesia's, I think what Ministry of Health is doing is already great in the sense of the reform of the regulation part that allows local companies to run R&D activities and also producing them here. So there's still a lot of gaps between what we can do and what the country needs. A lot of medical device is going to be replaced by local producers. One of it is the IVD reagents that Nusantics is producing. So there's a lot of upsides in terms of the business growth if you invest in companies like Nusantics. So I think please join Indonesia in terms of improving the healthcare, because what the companies are doing like Nusantics and also PathGen, we are trying to help the government to achieve the Indonesia Emas 2045 with the core is that the people need to be healthy first. And the way we need to be healthy is to do preventive diagnosis first, so that we'll be able to know our body better, and then we'll be able to provide significant contributions to the country as well. I think that's all.
Well, time is up. It is interesting conversations. I think you are agree with us that the best investment on health, the best wealth is health. That is the key one. So thank you very much for your kind attention, and thank you very much for the panelists.
Thank you so much, Pak.